Okay, this next section, there is basically very little to do for you. So everything that's black, as you know, is automatically calculated or generated. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit more to show you what this whole thing looks like. So as you can see, you've got agents commission at signing and you've got agents commission at settlement. So all this is doing is we're doing the same thing for commercial and we're doing the same thing for residential. So up here we've got residential, and at the bottom here we have commercial. So everything that you have selected so far will automatically be selected over here. Everything would be grayed out, so you don't really need to do anything in this section. What you do really need to do, and that is why these errors are showing up, is because we haven't really told the software that when is that commission that we have to pay at signing, when is that coming out. And that is the part that is the manual section where you need to say, okay, if you look at your timeline, let's just zoom back in. We started on 3rd of Feb and we are going to start our construction on 1st of December. And we would have to have our pre-sales done, which is what the commission at signing is for. We would have had to have that done before this construction would kick in, or the construction loan would kick in. So if you look here and you look at your timeline, we are starting construction on the 1st of December in 20. So let's go back here, 1st of December 20, which means that, this is the time that I would be doing my pre-sale. So 1st of August, 1st of September. So from August to November, this is my selling time. So I can come in and select this value here. So if I go back into this, let me just zoom right out and show you where we are at. So we are looking at this section. Now this section, all of that, once it is done, I just minimize that because now I can focus on this, because all I'm doing is allocating when is that commission that I owe to the agent upfront at the time and as soon as they've got a signed contract for me, when is that due? So I can come in here and I know that somewhere around the September mark is when this would start. And I can say, look, it'll be about 4 months. It would take about 4 months. So I can come in here, select 1st of September, and I know that it is up until this point. So let me just select and bring everything down. And I know it's for 4 months, so let me just select and bring 4 down over here as well. In terms of the method, I can still go with the straight line method and keep that as flat. It's up to you, the way you wanna, whichever way you wanna go with, so that everything that I need to input, I have already input over here. So if I press save and refresh, it will calculate the dates for me. It will do the calculation for me. But what it is trying to distribute over here is only the commission that will be due, only the percentage of the commission that will be due at the time of signing. So if they, if all of that, if they sold this during that time and I had to pay 30% upfront, I can do that. Now, if it did not apply to you, you don't have to worry about it, because it only applies to a lot of big size developments where they have to sell hundreds of them, and then the agents got no cash flow. So if it doesn't apply to you, you basically leave this blank. You don't put in any value, leave that as 0, and do nothing. So if I leave everything as 0 in this section and I click on save and refresh, it will remove everything that I have allocated over there. But for this example, let me just leave these things in there so I can show you the capabilities of this application. So now it has distributed that for me. Let me zoom out again, show you where we are at. So what we did was, for agents commission signing, and this is residential. So we said, okay, when we sign, we'll be paying 30% commission to them at the time of signing. So now this is because I now know that I will need to come up with $47,000 for commission just before I start construction, because that is the money that I would need in order to get my agent to give me a pre-sale contract, and the bank would then look at that pre-sales and approve the construction loan based on that. So once you do that, all of these other calculations happen automatically. Like for example, agent's commission at settlement, all these calculations will happen automatically, and you will see that the rest of the commission will be coming out in line with when you're settling on the units. So everything is coming out then, and over here everything is coming out when you allocate it, when you need to do your pre-sales. So once that is done, I can minimize that, and I do the same thing for for commercial section, because I had commercial, so we only have two. I need to make sure now. Again, as you can see, it shows an error. It shows an error because the total on this side is not matching the cash flow total on this side. So I've built in these checks. So anytime you see an error, make sure you press save and refresh, and make sure you have allocated a forecast method, an agent's commission, and anything that is, that needs to be part of the cash flow. So all the totals that are happening on your left side will always match everything that's happening on the right side. If they don't, it'll show an error. It's a check mechanism built in so that you do not forget about them. So I can come in here and select straight line method, and over here I'll select flat again, and over here I still have to select whatever the start date of that is going to be. So I can say that 1st of September is when it was supposed to be, and this is again duration, but I know that this is going to be just 2 months. I'm not going with the full 4 months in this scenario. So I can select 1st of September over here as well. If I go save and refresh, it will do those calculations and forecast my cash flow, the money that I would need during that time over here. That's how that money is coming out in this scenario. So that's what this is all about. So if I press it again, it will give me my calculations based on how the money is actually getting distributed in here. And you don't have to worry about what's happening over here, because it is exactly the same. The next section automatically takes care of the remaining amount and distributes it towards the end of the project along with the settlement, because the rest of the commission is coming out at the end of it. So this is the end of our construction costs, sale price, and revenue section. It is something to understand, but once you get your head around what's happening, it is very straightforward and easy to use. There are 3 methods here for you to calculate your construction cost. That you can use any of these 3 methods: individual area cost per unit of measurement, average cost per unit, and average cost per unit of measurement. So if I've got that individuals, I can allocate a rate. So even if you leave these values in, it does not matter. It'll automatically change and switch to the calculations that you have the values for this section. It will not, it would not matter what the values were over here, but visually it just keeps all these things easier to understand. So now before I go to the next section, I always press save and next, because then it redoes everything, make sure everything is correct. And I'll show you one more thing. So we are in the next section, which we will talk about in the next video, but before I go, let me just expand all of them, and you will see that all the checks that we had, which were showing an error when we started off, they're all okayed out. That means the totals in my cash flow distribution, they are all matching with the totals that I've got on this side. So these are checks built in, and I've got them built in almost on every sheet, to be able to make sure that we are warned if we are missing something out. So let's zoom back in, and I will see you in the next video about other revenue.